What's going on, everybody? Moniz here, and today we're comparing the iPhone XS Max versus the Huawei P20 Pro. I want to know which one has the best camera. A lot of people are saying the iPhone XS Max probably has the second best camera on the market, and others are saying the P20 Pro. Well, we're about to find out, yo. For the first picture, we're taking outdoors and we're doing a sky shot. And what we have here is the differences between both cameras. The P20 Pro loves to boost contrast to give you that appealing look. Some of you like it, some of you don't, but one thing's for sure, the iPhone XS Max looks a lot more natural. With boosting the contrast, something else has to go. In this situation, what you're getting is much deeper blacks and darker shadows. That means you'll see a lot more detail in the leaves themselves on the iPhone compared to the P20 Pro. Also, the sky looks a lot better on the XS Max. You can see the clouds better, you can see the way it looks better. There's just a lot more detail going on. Next, we have another example showing the differences between both phones. Again, a very contrasty picture on the P20 Pro. I think it looks great. It just depends if you want your things to look natural or not. With that contrast, you are losing some details in the highlights. The highlights are bumped up too high on the P20 Pro, making her feet look a little too overexposed compared to the iPhone XS Max. But the color tones on the XS Max are slightly reddish, which is a little bit weird, compared to the yellow tones on the P20 Pro. With that, the grass looks a lot more green on the P20 Pro, but you do again get more detail with the iPhone XS Max. So this picture is interesting because I personally think the P20 Pro did a better job of showing a picture that looks great. However, if you look at the iPhone X, you can see certain things a little bit better. For example, if you look at the spokes of the tire, you can see the little black scratches or black edges that are running across it. If you look at the rotor, the little wheel, inside of the wheel, you can see those lines spinning around it a lot easier on the iPhone X compared to the P20 Pro. Again, you have more of a yellow tone with the P20 Pro compared to more natural look on the iPhone X. Now, I love this photo. There's a lot going on here. We have reflections, we have tons of light, and both phones exposed it differently. The P20 Pro obviously blew out the background in order to get a brighter photo, whereas the iPhone XS Max did a better job of a more natural look. It also did a better job of showing the details. If you look at the hood of the car, the tree is more exposed correctly. You can see the details in the cloud better. The background of the iPhone XS Max also looks better. I mean, look at those clouds. You can see every single line and divot in the clouds, whereas on the P20 Pro, they're completely blown out. Also, I noticed the P20 Pro tried to blur out the background, whereas the iPhone XS Max got the entire picture. Now it's time for low light, and I personally think the iPhone XS Max looks a little bit better. So it did do some skin smoothing or over sharpening in order to compensate for ISO, but not nearly as much as the P20 Pro. As you can see in the P20 Pro, it's choosing to smooth out or over sharpen my skin to compensate for ISO. But once you turn on night mode for the P20 Pro, things look significantly better. This is where the P20 Pro excels when it comes to nighttime photography. Now, my face is blurry. I'm sure if I took this photo a couple of more times, it would have been in focus. But overall, the night mode on the P20 Pro is very hard to beat. Moving on to the front-facing camera, this is a front-facing portrait shot. Huawei usually has terrible front-facing pictures, however, it did a pretty good job in this scenario. I do like the blur in the background better on the iPhone. I think the iPhone exposed the picture a little bit better. If you look at the P20 Pro, the background is completely blown out at the expense of brightening up my face. I also think the skin tones are better with the iPhone. Now, the P20 Pro tends to use too much beauty mode, but the iPhone has aggressive noise reduction, giving the same sort of look. Overall, if I had to choose one over the other, I'd definitely choose the iPhone. Now we're reversing the cameras back to the rear. We're doing a portrait shot again. I personally think the P20 Pro looks a lot better. It did a good job of punching up those colors to give a very appealing image. The iPhone looks good too, but I find it to look a bit too flat. I find there to be too many yellow tones in the picture, making my skin look a little bit unnatural. If I had to choose one, I would choose the overall image of the P20 Pro with the blur of the iPhone. Finally, we have video. This is 1080p with the Huawei P20 Pro. I wanted to show you this first because stabilization is actually pretty good when it's at 1080p. But there's a lot of contrast in this picture. The blacks are a little bit too dark. The grass is a little bit too green. It just doesn't look as natural as it would be on the iPhone. However, once you switch to 4K, that's when the P20 Pro completely falls apart. It looks like there's a drunk guy walking down the street holding a phone, whereas on the iPhone, it's nice and stabilized. I also like the colors better on the iPhone. They look a lot more natural, I see a lot more detail, and overall, it's a lot more pleasing. So that pretty much wraps up this camera comparison between the Huawei P20 Pro and the iPhone XS. Both of these cameras take great photos, but if I had to choose one, I'd probably choose the iPhone, but I'd choose the P20 Pro for nighttime photography instead. Now I know I forgot to do a front-facing selfie, but trust me, the iPhone does it better. The P20 Pro just looks really bad and beautifies your face way too much. Anyways, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Let me know which camera took the better pictures in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram for some behind the scenes. If you have any questions, maybe you want to talk about your girlfriend, hit me up on Discord, and I'll see you guys in the next video.